toy must enjoy our contests, for it continues to play.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'll be sharing with you the build guide for my Reign of Arrows Warden. And just a heads up, I actually played an iteration of this build using Raider in my previous league. I'm not sure if you've seen the video or not, but basically I just decided to revisit the build with respect to the new changes in the Ascendancy, where Raider is now replaced by Warden, and just see how well it plays. And without further ado, let's begin. Okay, first up, I'm not going to cover much on the how the build scales, because I already covered it inside the previous build guide. And also I recommend you checking out my build concept video on this Reign of Arrows Warden. But basically the build is built around interaction from Anathema, Moonstone Ring, where your curse limit is equal to your maximum power charge, and Ascendancy Mark, where it triggers socketed spell. And we use the interaction to trigger curses, because in previous league, I can't remember which league. Oh, here 3.20. Basically all the endgame bosses and unique enemy no longer have less curse effect on them. So any curse you cast will be dealt with at full effect. So curses are actually very strong if you can stack them on the enemy. But something I just want to really cover is that the new Warden Ascendancy, in my opinion, works even better with my Reign of Arrows build, due to these two nodes right here, Oath of Winter and Oath of Spring, where it synergizes very well with fast attacking skill. Again, I recommend you to watch my build concept video, so that because I've covered the explanation on how it scales more elaborately on that. Okay, first up is the pros and cons of the build, and as always, I'm just going to read it off the notes inside the note section in my POB. And okay, here notes. Okay, number one, pros and cons. So we have the build have excellent clearing speed, because we're utilizing freeze ailment with Rain of Arrows and also Herald of Ice Explosion. And it has a really chill playstyle, because you just run around and just shoot at any direction, because Rain of Arrows will essentially cover the majority of your screen. We have decent enough DPS for endgame, so even without some of this stuff tick, we're already sitting at around 15 million DPS. It's decently tanky, well, for a bow build at least, but also because we can reliably freeze enemy, and that's something that's not really reflected inside the numerical figure, like effective hit pool and fizz max hit. And it's also cheap to start and gear, because the main unique that we need to function are just Anathema and Ascendancy Mark. And maybe Anathema is a little bit expensive, but Ascendancy Mark is generally pretty cheap. Cons, it's unique dependent, because as always, I always like to plan my build around unique interaction. Full DPS is curse dependent and not upfront, meaning, let's say when you meet an enemy, you need to essentially attack it multiple times to really ramp up your curses, because your curse will be casted in sequence using Ascendancy Mark. So it's not going to how to say, it's not going to have your full DPS, or at least the majority of your DPS straight away. But usually, during weaker enemy, you don't really need the upfront DPS anyway, because they usually die in unbuff from unbuff damage anyway. And lastly, mana can be sustained through instant leech, but we can actually run out quite easily because of our attack speed and also the mana cost of our skills, because not only we have a high mana cost on Rain of Arrows, but also on all of the spells that we trigger at level 20. Even though they're unlinked, each of them is a chunk, will eat up a chunk of your mana pool easily. So you typically need to be a little bit careful in managing your mana pool. But if once you meet the enemy and your attack starts hitting and the instant leech starts coming in, you can sustain your mana easily. Okay, next up is the offensive and defensive layers of the build. And okay, number 1, Anathema Ring and Asnath Mark Helmet. And again, you can look at my build concept video for me to really explain how these things work. Number 2, Rain of Arrows plus Herald of Ice. Already said this inside the pros and cons. So Rain of Arrows have good coverage, and Herald of Ice explosion makes the clear even better. Number 3, Rain of Arrows plus Oath of Winter, Oath of Spring, and Point Blank. Okay, I already covered a portion of this inside the build concept guide, but basically Oath of Winter and Oath of Spring changes the way freeze and shock work so that it scales well with fast hitting but smaller hits, which is what Rain of Arrows does. So can easily reach shock cap of 100% and freeze enemy even with low damage. And once we've done that and the enemy is frozen in place, we can then move closer to the enemy for point blank to have the full effect of point blank keystone. And finally, Rain of Arrows plus Avatar of the Wild's generation. So because Rain of Arrows also inflicts multiple hit on a single enemy, it allows for so much easy Avatar of the Wild stack generation. Because if you can see from Avatar of the Wilds, you gain an Unbound Fury. Gain 1 Unbound Fury when you inflict an elemental ailment when you hit an enemy, no more than once every 0.2 seconds for each type of ailment. So that's the keyword right there. So it functions very well when you can inflict multiple elemental ailment on enemy. And the build basically inflicts chill, freeze, shock, and ignite. So that's four ailment on an enemy. And with the multi-hitting nature of Rain of Arrows, we can build up Avatar of the Wild so much, Unbound Fury so much easier than most other build. And even though it requires 100 Unbound Fury, you should be able to see in the video that the build doesn't really have any trouble gaining up to maximum stack quite easily. Okay, defensive layers. So the build has armor, spell suppression, enfeeble, and endurance charge. Okay. Armor is something that we gain from evasion, but we convert it all through Iron Reflex Keystone, which is right here. And spell suppression is something we get from Ascendancy, just a small pip from the skill tree, from Hiri's chest, and also +1 roll on boots to allow us to gain spell suppression cap. Enfeeble is something that we set as autocast from helmet. This is especially good on bosses because again, as I mentioned, bosses now take 100% curse effect on them. Endurance charge is something that we gain from our Lethal Pride right here to have a chance to gain endurance charge on kill. I can't remember where is it. Here, 5% chance to gain an endurance charge on kill. And we use Enduring Cry on bosses since there's no other way to generally gain on kill effect on bosses. Number 2, we have Stun Immunity and Ailment Immunity. Okay, Stun Immunity is something we get from Stun Avoidance Tattoo plus Heart of Oak node. Or we use Brine King if tattoos are not available yet. And then Ailment Immunity is something we get from Purity of Element. Number 3, we have Instant Leech plus Rain of Arrows multi-hit. Instant Leech is from this Leech Mastery right here. And basically, it allows your Life Leech to actually be so much better because each single hit allows you to have a huge amount of what's equivalent to life gain on hit. I think it's shown here inside the POB somewhere. Wait, let me see. Instant Leech. Okay, our instant Leech is 45.5. Per second is 223. Because this multiplies by our attack rate. But again, you need to multiply this again by the number of arrows hitting an enemy per Rain of Arrows stack, which is roughly 3.5. So this is this is roughly above easily above 500 just from instant leech alone, and that's not counting the also the normal leech portion. So that's why whatever life leech you see here is also not fully representative of what the build can actually gain on hit. And then finally, Oath of Winter permaphase. This is something you can see a better showcase inside the build concept guide, or also in one of the gameplay video. You can easily freeze enemies and even bosses. They now have even more buff freeze ailment effect on them in 3.25, where they cannot be slow up to 50%. Previously it was 30%, so that's also even better for this league to inflict freeze. Okay, next up is Mastery, Ascendancy, and whatnot. And let's see. Okay, important mastery. Number 1, Leech Mastery. Already covered this just now. 10% Leech is instant. In my opinion, you need to aim for this ASAP from your skill tree. So basically, you start from here, and then basically you need to go here as soon as possible. But of course, take some damaging notes during leveling just to make your leveling easier. But aim for this leech as soon as possible. Okay, Life Mastery, increase life on chest. Mana Mastery for reservation efficiency. Bow Mastery for projectile speed, and only use this if your equipment has high enough roll of projectile speed, because you can see here from our PUB calculation we have like 1.91 projectile speed, but actually most of them, this one is from tattoos and this is from the quiver itself. So you can put that off until you get I would say enough sources of projectile speed. And also Cold Mastery for increased damage taken per frozen, and take this when you have allocated Oath of Winter, because that's when you can really reliably and easily freeze any enemies. Iron Reflex Keystone to convert our evasion to armor, and Point Blank for damage for bossing when you need them. Okay, Ascendancy, this is what I recommend to take. Number 1, Earth of Spring for shock effect build up, so you can take his as your first Ascendancy. And second and third, you can actually take either Avatar of the Wild. Either you can path to Avatar of the Wild, or you can just take Oath of Winter first. I think it mostly depends on what you want. Do you want more DPS? You take Avatar of the Wild. But do you want easier crowd control and quality of life? Then you take Oath of Winter first. And then 3, you take whichever is not taken yet. And finally, lastly, you take Mother's Teaching, which gives Buckskin. But actually, Buckskin, the value, the real value of Buckskin is actually during campaign. And if you use it, you can really see the difference between the defense that the build has. But of course, personally, it's up to you. You either start with Buckskin and then go for your DPS nodes, or you go for DPS nodes and then finally and take Buckskin whenever you want. It's quite flexible in that sense. You can take whichever you want. And also, something I need to highlight, make sure you pass through the smaller node nearby Avatar of the Wilds. Here, Avatar of the Wilds, because this 2 node right here gives the all important increased duration of elemental ailment on enemies, which is needed to scale freeze and shock once you've taken this 2 node right here. So just something I need to highlight in case you take Oath of Spring, then you take off Oath of Winter. Obviously you will pass through the starting tree right here, but you need to respect it into taking this node once you reach the end game. Pantheon, we're taking Soul of Arakali for chaos resistant damage over time, but you take Brine King for stun immunity if you don't have the tattoos yet. And Minor is Soul of Islata for lifeless, or Shakari for dot damage reduction. Oh, I also forgot. For bandits, kill all for 1 point. Okay, next is the gem setup for the build. And okay, our main skill will be using Rain of Arrows. So main skill Rain of Arrows plus Trinity plus elemental damage with attacks, Mirage Archer, increase crit damage and hypothermia. So this is our main skill. We use Trinity once you can balance out the cold and lightning damage, and this is something not everybody knows, but you can actually trigger Trinity with just 2 elements, and usually one of them is lightning, because lightning rolls from very low to very high, and your cold damage, which is more stable in regards to the range. So how it works is that sometimes your lightning can get super low roll, and your cold damage will be, let's say, in the middle. So you get cold resonance from cold damage, and sometimes your lightning roll very high, your cold damage is still in the middle, so you get resonance from your lightning damage, and that's how you basically alternate the rolls on damage on enemy to gain resonance for Trinity. And for Rain of Arrows, it's even better because you hit enemy multiple times, so there's even more chances to gain Trinity. You get Rain of Arrows ASAP because it's a very good damage burst during bossing, and it's also useful whenever you run out of mana, so that you can basically instant leech from the enemy if your mana runs out. Okay, so if Trinity is not triggering properly, so you drop it first, just get other support gem first. By that, it shouldn't be an issue because we're using usually unique quivers with Ahuana's Bite or Hiri's Bite plus Herald of Ice for flat cold, and then we use Wrath for flat lightning. Usually just this setup alone shouldn't cause you an issue to inflict Trinity. It's just a problem if the bow that you're using somehow is very skewed to one element, that in some rare cases it might actually cause you not to gain resonance from Trinity. Okay, autocast spells. This is something we socketed in our helmet as another mark. Number 1, elemental weakness, enfeeble, assassin's mark, and finally hydrosphere. Okay, elemental weakness reduce enemy resistances for both cold and lightning. Enfeeble reduces damage dealt by enemy. Assassin's mark gives a buff for crit scaling build. And finally hydrosphere for cold and lightning exposure, which we both utilizes for the build. Okay, just a heads up, if mana is an issue during early game, just use lower level curse gem, because high level curse gem consumes a lot of mana, but the curse effect is not that exponentially better anyway. So you can manage your mana issue this way during early game. Make sure to get quality on elemental weakness because it increases the elemental ailment duration inflicted on enemies, which is great for our freeze and shock. And also get quality for assassin's mark because it gives you another chance to gain power charge on crit, other than the interaction with anathema ring. Okay, number 2, mana forge arrow utility. We're using ensnaring arrow, frenzy, bone chill, and mana forge arrows. So ensnaring arrow can slow the enemy and apply increased damage taken. Frenzy for frenzy charge generation. Bone chill for inflicting chill on enemy using these 2 skill for further DPS. And mana forge just to trigger all of it. Make sure to keep ensnaring arrow and frenzy at level 1 because we only need them for their utility effect and not the damage. Cast when damage taken using Molten Shell, Tornado, and Sigil of Power. Okay, so Molten Shell is just a typical guard skill for armor scaling. Tornado for free added DPS. And lastly, Sigil of Power. Sigil of Power gives flat added damage at maximum stage and also less damage taken. And the build can actually easily build up the Sigil of Power stage for low level. Sorry. Let me put this here. Keep Sigil of Power at level 1 to easily gain stages. Alright. So, but it gives beneficial enough less damage taken on any build. So it's worthwhile to use it in this configuration. Aura. using Wrath, Herald of Ice, Purity of Element, and Precision. So it's unlinked. You can socket wherever you want. And Precision can be activated last once you have the mana. The more important ones are Wrath, Herald of Ice, and Purity of Elements. But also, this build is using Aul's Uprising. So usually during leveling, especially in softcore, we're just focusing on Wrath and Herald of Ice. Utility uses we using Frostblink and Enduring Cry, also unlinked, and just make sure you get quality for both skill gem for blink distance and sword cry cooldown. Enduring Cry, again, I want to highlight, just use during bossing because you can gain charge during mapping from Lethal Pride, so it's not necessary to use Enduring Cry during mapping. Okay, finally is our gears and explanation. We're starting off with our weapon, bow, using a cold and lightning bow with high crit chance and attack speed. So this is something you progressively upgrade to endgame version. The good thing is you don't have to have plus additional projectile variant on the bow, so it's technically usually cheaper to build. Like for example, this bow right here, I have like, I think it was tier 1 or tier 2 cold and lightning damage, and also increase elemental damage with attack skills on the prefix. And then we have attack speed, increase crit chance, and chance to deal double damage. So this is technically a good enough endgame bow for the build. Quiver using Heli's Bite, Ahuana's Bite during leveling, and then transition to rare DPS Quiver for endgame, as many DPS rolls as you can fit into. Helmet, we're using Ascendancy Mark, which is required for this build for our autocast setup. And because it's cheap, I recommend you to get a corrupted one with +2 level to socketed curse gem for even better scaling from that gear. Body armor, we're using Heli's Ire, which is our best in slot because it gives evasion, flat added cold, and spell suppression. This cold damage linked with Wrath Aura allows us to have a nice balance of cold damage, because you can see here from the calculation, we inflict lightning damage from 5k to 93k, and then cold damage from 41k to 66k. So the overlap of that lightning damage allows us to easily alternate the damage inflicted on the enemy for that resonance gain for Trinity. Glove using Soul Ascension. So Soul Ascension is basically a very OP glove for attack speed, and it's essentially best in slot because we're focusing on our fast multi hits on the enemy for Oath of Winter and Oath of Spring from the Warden Ascendancy. Boots, we're using rare with Exile and Eater implicit. So just use life, movement speed, resistance, but also spell suppression. You need at least 9%. 9%, was it 9%? Yeah, you need at least 9% spell suppression to reach spell suppression cap with the skill tree. Belt, using rare Stygian Vice for endgame for life, resistance, and elemental damage with attacks. For ring, during early game, recommend using Praxis Power or Chevrons for mana, for mana to solve your mana issue, and just another rare. And for endgame, we're using Anathema, which is required to combo with Ascendancy Mark, and also Taming, because Taming is just essentially a very high DPS ring for this build because we're inflicting all 4 elemental ailment. What else? Okay, Amulet. Okay, early game, basically just use whatever. I just recommend Carnage Heart because Carnage Heart has a lot of attributes. But for endgame, you use Aul's Uprising, either the Vision or Wrath or Purity of Element because it's identical to the build anyway. Best anointment to get is Mark for Death for Culling, or Always Angry, which is a new anointment in 3.25, which gives you 8 rage minimum. For jewels, we're taking Lethal Pride with the 2 important rules: chance to gain endurance charge on kill, and then as much chance as much chance to deal double damage as possible that you can roll. And socketed here near the ranger tree. And then Watcher's Eye with flash charge on crit, that's the most important one. And another one is just any other DPS mod like precision or wrath, so like attack speed, crit multi, attack damage, or damage penetrate, lightning resistance, whichever you can get your hands on. Abyss Jewel, we have high flat life plus flat elemental AD damage, because you can now get 6 mod on your Abyss Jewel, which is very nice for the build to scale all your elemental damage. But something important I want to highlight, it's recommended to get flat added fire damage on your Abyss Jewel, so that you can inflict ignite on enemy, because you just need just a small amount of fire damage to inflict ignite. So I recommend to get it here. I got mine from my quiver, but I also have on my Abyss Jewel. You just need a small amount for that ignite to occur. Tattoos, we have a chance to avoid stun, 7 of them, and the rest we use chance to blind on hit and whatever DPS mod that we can find. Flash, finally, we have bleed life flash, and then 3 utility flash, which are Jade, Silver, and Basalt. Jade for evasion, which is converted to armor. Silver for onslaught. Basalt for more armor. For suffixes, we want reduce curse effect, we want evasion, and we want armor. And final slot is flexible, which I usually put Bottle Faith. And that's about it for the build. I have to say the build, the version of this build is much better than the one that I played previously with the new Warden Ascendancy. But it's just that I leak started with my eye shot of penetration totem trickster, so the build feels kinda lacking in that sense, because that eye shot totem trickster is just a way better build. But at least I'm glad to actually find out how the build works with the new Warden. Oh, something I forgot to highlight. Again, this is something that I didn't take inside the POB. Soul Eater stack, Val Rain of Arrows, Tornado Reflected DPS, which I don't know how to express in POB, and also Unbound Avatar. As you can see here from our DPS, this is from the configuration of having only 20 Soul Eater stacks. And this build actually has no trouble gaining up to maximum. So if you want to have let's say theoretical DPS numbers, so you put maximum Soul Eater stacks right here, is 20 million. We click Unbound Avatar, this is 38 million. And there's also you can use Val Rain of Arrows, but this one is not you need to play around to really replicate the DPS from Val Rain of Arrows. But basically the build can reach like very high DPS if it really wants. It's just that this is something that I don't want to like fully tick inside the POB. But for Soul Eater stack and Unbound Avatar is something that you can reliably gain. It's just that it depends on your playstyle, when you want to press Unbound Avatar, and can the build actually gain Soul Eater stack on so and so scenario. So that's why I put it untick. That's my justification anyway. And that's about it for the build. I'm already playing my third build right now, which is Perfect Agony Bleed Bow Slayer, and I have to say that is another banger of a build. So if you're interested to find out, just wait for my next video update from the channel. That's it. Thank you very much. Bye.